Japan doesn't like Tien. Maybe you've heard, but they know who he is. I guess if you hate someone, you're probably going to recognize them, right? Yeah, 3 eyes, 4 arms, that guy. Sometimes he's got a neck. And perhaps from a country across the East China Sea? But he's always had something growing out of his hip. Toriyama likes his villain duos. Vegeta and Nappa, Poor and Yamcha, Sam Elliott and John Candy. No one knows what the hell I'm talking about. I guess a lot of you watching grew up on Roblox. You're not gonna know who Uncle Buck is. But Chiaotzu. Chiaotzu is like Tien's legally blonde purse dog. Oh, you don't know what legally... whatever. There have been no scenes of Chiaotzu doing stuff on his own. Going to the movies, baking a cake, building a birdhouse, whatever normal people do when they're alone. I don't know. Nah. Tien is always nearby. Tien is the capable one. Tien is the marketable one. Tien taught Chiaotzu how to shop online. He can handle Congress. And that's sad, when Tien is the one people care about. Because I remember Gohan axe-handling this poor boy through the planet. Such nostalgic memories of Tien swallowing soil. On Tien's recruitment episode for the Tournament of Power. Wait, no, I'm sorry. His episode was the one where an old man violated him like a restraining order. And this was after Goku forgot that Tien existed. Had to be reminded by Oolong, yes. That considered, you know how often they discuss the idea of bringing Chiaotzu along? -1. I'm serious. It doesn't happen in the anime at all. In the manga, Yamcha doesn't show up, so Tien threatens to bring Chiaotzu moments before Frieza shows up. My favorite part is that no one acknowledges that he even said it. It's like Tien is saying, if you guys don't pick a restaurant, we're going to Burger King. Chiaotzu is the Burger King. Burger King sucks, man. So how do we get here? In the parking lot, threatening people with Whoppers. I don't know if we ever weren't here. I can go back to Tianshan and show off how he used to be this cool, powerful antagonist, you know, before life played its little tricks on him. You can't really do that with Chiaotzu. Chiaotzu always kind of sucked. Out of all the main Z fighters, or whatever you want to call them, he's the worst one, right? He's competing with Yamcha, who at least gets used as a joke character, and Yajirobe, who was never really part of the main cast, and is also a joke character. What's Chiaotzu's role? Chiaotzu's role is Tien's burden. Tien should take this quarter, go downtown, and have a rat gnaw that thing off his face. See, now you know who Uncle Buck is. When Chiaotzu comes up at all, he's treated like a wife or a son or a dog you should feed before you go on vacation. Part of why Tianshan doesn't get used, and I'm serious, is you have to waste time acknowledging that Bruiser Woods needs a kibble dispenser. Sort of Yamcha too. I wouldn't classify Puar as a Z fighter though. But Yamcha and Puar are probably the first time Toriyama ever introduced an opponent as a duo. In that case, it was to give Yamcha someone to play off of, and as a silly comedy counterpoint to Oolong, who was, you know, just in the party at the time. Tien and Chiaotzu was the first time both were fighters, and it didn't really happen again until Vegeta and Nappa. So Chiaotzu suffers a lot from being part of the first villain duo back in the comedy era of Dragon Ball. He's not Nappa, who, you know, explodes. He's not Fat Chiaotzu, who also explodes. He's not Android 18, who, well, you know what she exploded with. Maybe that's what should have happened. You know, imprig. No, okay, probably not. Chiaotzu should have... Oh wait, he did explode. Well, it should have stuck. Then Tien could move on with his life and just obliterate Launch. And she wouldn't need to be 50? 51 years old at the time of Dragon Ball Superhero. This poor, lonely woman. She just wanted the 3-eyed D, man. Could you imagine? It's because through meditation he awakened its third eye. I'm sorry. Chiaotzu was introduced as part of a joke that stopped being told. And once that joke was over, his lack of cool factor meant he just turned into an albatross around Tien's ample neck. So, what even is he? Why he look like that? Why is my man shaped like a Precious Moments clown baby? Why you look like that? You little freak. Chiaotzu is modeled after a Zhengxi, also known as a hopping vampire. I'm not going to be me and go into a deep dive about the history of monsters. I sort of talk about it in my Halloween art video about a Romanian creature called a Prigalici. The gist of it is that modern people like to categorize monsters, but originally, their traits blended together so a lot of them just sound very similar when you go back and start looking at them. Anyways, Zhengxi are basically undead corpses that sleep in burial chambers or dark places and come out at night to feed on people's ki. They can fly and tend to float in and steal infants. Sound familiar? The whole idea of them hopping has been suggested to come from Chinese corpse driving, where night working professionals would transport dead workers back to their families on bamboo sticks, which gave the appearance of a corpse bouncing down a road in the middle of the night. So like all myths, it kept iterating, so these days it's less about what a Zhengxi is or what it does, and it's more about what it looks like, which got pretty standardized. They tend to be depicted wearing old mandarin uniforms from the Qing dynasty. Their arms are almost always outstretched because their bodies are rigid, so sort of zombie-like in that respect, and their skin is usually pale or green. So if you ever wondered why Chiaotzu looks like crap, this is why. He's pale, hovers most of the time, is stout and rigid, and even most of his attacks involve him outstretching his arms like a Zhengxi. Also supposedly around the time Zhengxi movies were a big fad, Tien was basically one big Chinese martial arts film reference himself, and of course Toriyama loved movies and making references to them. A huge amount of stuff I'm not going to mention is actually reference to Terminator or Alien or various martial arts films from the 70s. Now though, China is less popular in Japan than it perhaps once was. Perhaps there is an interesting and consistent parallel between these two nations historically that sees Japan appropriate some ideas while eschewing others during more controversial times. Oh, hi there, Tien, didn't see you. Anyway, a lot of original Dragon Ball characters are also based off Journey to the West characters. Chiaotzu and Tien are likely references to Nessa and Erlang Shen. Nessa is usually a little kid, which is why Chiaotzu turns 44 years old and is still this configuration of atoms. My favorite Zhangxi is Lele, or Xianko. No, I don't know anything about Darkstalkers, but that woman has some fun videos you can search for. But the thing is, that's as far as the joke goes. Goku started as a Wukong reference. Now he's a mess. But he ain't that. He ain't Wukong. Piccolo was introduced as this really old demon, and now he's his own son and twin brother and also kind of himself again, and a couple of other guys. Good for him. Look at Krillin. He was a conniving, scheming goblin baby who couldn't catch a break. And now, by God, I wish I was him. Wow. I'd give her a quarter. But yeah, what's Chiaotzu? How would he evolve? Well, Piccolo Daimo killed him, then he died fighting Nappa, then he gets killed when Boo blows up Earth. He changed, sure, into a literal corpse, then into dust, and then into atoms. He's been through lots of changes. Even when he was supposedly important, he's only ever had one solo fight. That was against Krillin, so it's really more Krillin's fight. And it ended because Chiaotzu can't count. It's an okay joke, but I'm not sure why he can't count. Is it because he's supposed to be a baby? I don't think it's part of Chinese vampire lore that they're bad at math. Maybe it's because he's psychic and Toriyama thought it'd be funny if a psychic was bad at math. I know it's because Shen says he regrets not teaching Chiaotzu math in universe, but I mean, as far as it being a writing decision, why? Anyway, every other time he's doing something, he's still the purse dog. He's there as Tien's Pokemon. Chiaotzu exists for the same reason wrestlers have managers. If a wrestler is bad on mic because the actor lacks charisma, you usually pair him with a clownish personality who can either do the talking for him or take some of the edge off of his delivery. I think that's why Toriyama sometimes introduces villain duos. If he lacks confidence in one of them, or just needs a threat to take place over a longer period of time, you need the villain, but you need some leverage. Jiro wasn't a strong villain, 17 and 18 and 16 on their own wouldn't be either, and showed up specifically because Toriyama's editors weren't happy with Zero and 19. Nappa and the Cybermen existed to do the majority of the fighting before Goku showed up, and Tien on his own didn't have the gravitas to hold the story together while also giving Krillin something to fight. That's how you get a Chiaotzu, especially when you're at the tail end of trying to force Journey to the West analogs in all your characters. Did Toriyama care about Chiaotzu or have any special plans for him? I mean, it's Toriyama, the anti-planner, so assumedly no, of course. But was Chiaotzu such a memorable, cute character emotionally tied with the audience that his death would mean something? No, so he can't really die either. Was he so cool that he could show up and use one move to at least get a cameo attack? Nope. He passes the butter. That's all he does. So Chiaotzu occupies this fun little spot where he's too visible to totally forget, too lame to care about, and unpopular enough that no one cares. Now he's relegated to attending group barbecues where they introduce villains. This might be the point of the video where I talk about all the cool things Chiaotzu used to do. He didn't. The only unique thing he's got really is telekinesis, which... what's the difference between that and where everyone else does it, yeah? Is this like when Piccolo is BSing about how he doesn't fly like everyone else, but it's not elaborated on and it doesn't really matter? It's like that, who cares? So Chiaotzu doesn't have cool, unique powers that stand out fine. But what about his fun, agency-fueled, special, and warm? Yeah, no, his personality stinks too. I mean, he's fine, he's like a nice guy, I guess, but, you know, that's the thing about nice guys, there are a lot of them, and they're boring. In Dragon Ball, he's basically like Poor number 2, he kind of just shows up around the same time and does the exact same thing. He's just there. He's someone else's mascot that hovers next to them, and he does what he's told. Let's go back in time and look at Dragon Ball. Let's start over. When Tien is introduced, he is using a boar thing with butterfly wings to fake attacks on villages so that they can collect the reward money. Chiaotzu is also there. Later at the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, Chiaotzu uses his, I guess, unique telekinesis powers to fix the matches, because Tien told him to. Chiaotzu loses to Krillin, then uses his powers on Goku during the match against Tien, because Shin told him to. He does, however, refuse to kill Tien and Goku when Shin tells him to. Not that he could have, but he refuses to do it. It's probably the first time he ever shows a lick of independent thought. Later, he helps collect the Dragon Balls, because Tien does. After Roshi dies, trying to stop Piccolo Daimyo from making a wish, Chiaotzu tries to steal the wish and dies in the process, because Tien tells him to. They keep his rotting corpse in a capsule for a while, which is kind of funny considering the whole vampire corpsey thing. Later, he fixes the match order again in the 23rd tournament, because Tien tells him to. He has to fight Tail Pai Pai, which happens off-screen in a panel or two, because who cares? Then he trains for the Saiyans and blows himself up. Oh, despite Tien telling him not to! Wow! Character development. And it doesn't work. It didn't do anything. Also, you ever think it's funny that whenever like Dragon Ball characters blow up, they kind of explode into a mist, like dust? They don't like radiate into this big gore fest that just sprays out all over everyone and gets in everyone's mouths and shit. You know, like Chiaotzu's just a big full mosquito that's been trapped under your sock and it's just been sitting there sucking the whole time you pop it and just... sorry, I'll stick to the script. Okay, what happens next? That's pretty much it. He's seen a few times. During the whole Imperfect Cell thing, he's baking food and blushing for everyone in a little waifu apron. And because he's told to by Tien, he doesn't go to the Cell games. Probably because Toriyama is like, I'm not drawing that thing. And in the Buu saga, he is seen and avoids Buu's human extinction attack. Hey, he almost did something. He's seen a couple times at the start of Super. Tien leaves him behind when they fight the generic Frieza foot soldiers. I guess he couldn't handle people slightly weaker than Raditz. That's embarrassing. He'd rather die off screen. Which he does. Good for you, Chiaotzu. He watches the Tournament of Destroyers. He tries to restrain Goku from beating up Manaka, and fails to do so. Then we wrap back around to Tien's pathetic dojo, where he sort of helps out with the mind-controlled jobbers. Then he blows wind up Yuren's skirt to give Roshi a woody. Then he watches Tien get humiliated, and that's it so far. Chiaotzu sucks, and I want to point out that it's not because he's weak or loses all of his fights. Chiaotzu sucks because he's boring. He certainly ain't cool. Most importantly, he doesn't have any agency. He doesn't do anything, and he can't make his own decisions. When he does anything, it's like he's Tien or someone else's gun. Narratively, there's no reason for him to be there when someone else could be doing whatever it is that he's doing. This a little writing lesson for you young authors out there. If a character has no reason for being there, it's not a character and it never belonged in the story. Chiaotzu doesn't need to exist, and never did. Toriyama should have merged the characters of Chiaotzu and Tien into a new character called Tien. Tien changes the match order. Tien tries to interrupt Piccolo's wish. Tien blushes and bakes everyone a meal in the waifu apron. Tien turns Roshi on. Tien watches himself get humiliated. These are all things Tien is exceptional at. He has had so much practice. So Japan doesn't like Tien. No one cares about Chiaotzu. And more importantly, it's because he doesn't need to exist. He's good at one thing, showcasing why you don't write in ideas that don't need to be there. He's a living mistake. I'm sorry, you're right. He's an undead mistake. Sort of. When you toss in a character because, haha, reference, but you have no plan for them, no interest in them, you can't even think of a good use case for them, and fans don't care about them? Tighten your script, drop your baggage, resist the urge to make a reference for no reason. Drop that purse dog into the acid vat. Jokerify this goblin baby and recycle him into Cell's booty hole, or let Nappa eat him. In the manga, Chiaotzu didn't even explode Nappa's armor off. Nappa just shows up in the next chapter without it on, I guess because he felt so refreshed by a shower of Chiaotzu's viscera that he's like, oh, why am I wearing this? I love being a big naked man. Wait, even in the anime he didn't even blow his armor off. He didn't do anything. Now, I do appreciate that in the manga stuff we've been getting post-Super, Chiaotzu is there, trying to do things, kind of. He doesn't do anything, but... is that enough? No. It's a step up from Launch, who's a single truck driver in her 50s. Is that enough? In a world of Dragon Balls and being friends with the richest woman on the planet? No! What would I do with him then? Yeah, big smarty pants, Mr. Playground Smarty Pants. What would I do? Besides erasing him from existence. If I'm prevented from going back in time and just removing his concept from ever existing in the first place, if I'm not allowed to do that, what do? Oh, I'd turn Chiaotzu into a JoJo ghost. I'd Shigechi this boy. That's how you fix him. Touch the doorknob, Chiaotzu. Fixed. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment angrily. You know the drill. I have a Patreon that is keeping me alive in these dark times. $1 a month would help. More videos soon. Be critical, be kind. See you next time.